Hello. Hi. Oh, I never wanted my trauma to define me. In fact, I avoided talking about my trauma. I avoided everything to do with my trauma, honestly, most of my life. And I didn't want it to define me. I didn't want it to inform what people thought about me. But it did, even if they never knew about the things that happened to me. And so I'll just give you a breakdown. I had a lot. And now at this point in my life, it's actually a gift. But for most of my life, it felt the opposite. So the short version of the things that happened to me, and maybe one or two of these things you could relate to. I'll start small, work up to big. My mom was my sole caregiver, so I didn't have I didn't have multiple people taking care of me, but my mom was super disconnected. She was super disconnected, emotionally unavailable, and not very capable of taking care of my needs, or her own for that matter. She was emotionally and physically abusive. She gaslit me a lot. And to be fair, I honestly don't even know she was aware of it, because her level of disconnection and consciousness was so not there. She was doing drugs. She was drinking a lot, all kinds of things. Anyway, my first big trauma was that one happened when I was 4 years old, and my best friend was a junkie, Vietnam vet junkie who lived up the street, and we had this really great relationship. Great to me in comparison to my mom. And, he provided the emotional needs that my mom did not: the love, the belonging, the support, the encouragement, things that my mom was not capable of giving me. And so the big thing that happened was that I held his hand while he died of an overdose. And later, down the line, a year or two later, I was left consistently with a babysitter who would shove food down my throat until I threw up, food that I didn't like, that I didn't want to eat. Her kids would tie me up, lock me in the closet, and leave me there overnight. So that was a consistent thing for a while. I was sexually assaulted twice by a man who I can't remember who it was, the other by a man who was my mom's boyfriend at the time. And when I told her, she made it out like it was my fault, like I had done something wrong. And then she forgot that I told her. And, for the record, when things are emotionally overwhelmed, often our subconscious will block those memories out. My mom very well may not have actually remembered. Just like some of those big traumas I didn't remember till I was old enough, till I had more resources, more capacity to be able to actually handle the knowledge of what had happened to me, and then little by little the emotional content of what had happened to me. And so that's one of the things that happens with trauma, is a lot of times, in the way most of my life, most of my early life, up into my 20s and even my 30s, is I was just dealing with what happened to me. Nothing deeper than that. And I used my trauma. I didn't really use it. I didn't want people to know about it. Because if people knew about it, or if I talked about it, there was a chance that it could stir up those emotions. And those emotions were too overwhelming. They were so overwhelming that half of my traumas I blocked out. Forgot, just like my mom forgot that I had told her about what had happened to me. And so in the context of my trauma, I could talk about what happened to me for a lot of the years, for some of the stuff, but I couldn't tell you how I felt about it, because the truth was I didn't feel anything. I was stuck and locked in freeze. And in fact, sometimes when people were getting too close, I would tell them about my trauma just to push them away. I would tell them about how I was sexually assaulted as a kid. In fact, I even used that trauma as the basis of my college entrance paper. And I used it and I manipulated and I massaged the story about how that had happened to me and how I was going to use that as fuel to create a better life for myself, how I was independent and strong and would be a good person to go to college. Ironically, I dropped out. I dropped out because I was studying something that I didn't want to study. I was doing the things that I thought would make me safe instead of doing what I wanted, doing what I loved. And that's the thing. When I said earlier that I didn't want my trauma to ever define me, but that it actually has. It's defined everything in my life because I grew up feeling so unsafe that every decision, virtually every decision I made for most of my life was purely about being safe. It was survival mode safety. So if you could imagine you are in the wilderness and you haven't had food for 10 days and you don't have shelter and, there's survival at play. The thing that you want most in that circumstance is safety. You're not concerned about singing and dancing. You're concerned about surviving. You're concerned about making sure nothing terrible happens to you. And so that's kind of a perfect metaphor for how I lived my life, being trapped in the wilderness with no way out, with no food, no water, trying to figure out like every move, every decision, everything that I wanted to do, that I needed to do was about how do I get those basic needs met. The basic needs met of food, money, water, love, belonging, support. No, not really support. I didn't reach for support because for me, support came with consequences. It left me more on edge. It left me scared of it being taken away. It left me scared of when it would turn around and turn into something awful. And even in my relationships, it was like that. It was like people had to really push to get in and break through my walls. And often the ones who were willing to push that hard weren't very healthy either. And so once they would push and break through those walls, and eventually I might feel safe, and then I would let my guard down and inevitably something would happen. They would flip on me, and because I changed, because I started acting different, because I all of a sudden felt like I needed them. I was looped back into that childhood thing of needing that person who's providing my needs for me, whether it was my junkie friend Carl who provided emotional needs for me, or my mom who essentially put a roof over my head and sometimes fed me. Sometimes. But there's there's that push-pull of pattern where it's like sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And so never knowing if I was going to get it or not get it, be fed or not be fed. And if I was fed, then I felt like I had to make sure I took it all and didn't leave any on the plate because I didn't know if there was going to be more. I didn't know if I was going to be told, no, Genea, you're not hungry. It's just a figment of your imagination. And so in my life, everything I did, virtually everything I did, was a result of the trauma I had experienced growing up, whether it was trauma by little things over and over. It's like if you have a paper cut in the same place over and over, that wound gets really, really nasty. Like it might just be a little thing. And maybe there's a lot of people, we have, all of us, it doesn't matter like how great your parents were, all of us have some of those wounds. And if you have a few paper cuts, it's okay, you heal, you can recover from that. But man, when it keeps happening over and over, they call that CPTSD, complex post-traumatic syndrome. But that wound gets just as big as those really big things, like watching your best friend die when you're 4 years old. The one who provided majority of your needs. And so, yeah, the trauma has defined me. But here I am, I spent my whole life trying to either avoid it or heal it. And fuck, I did all the things. I did 10 years of therapy, multiple therapists. I did ayahuasca ceremonies. I did transformational workshops. I did combo ceremonies. I did shamanic healings. I did leadership workshops, NLP, hypnosis. I did all the things, plant medicine, and all of those things informed the work that I do now, but there was no one thing that actually fixed me. And what I didn't understand as I was chasing the healing was that because I was really smart and I was really adept at surviving, I just did circles around all that shit. So all those things are designed to open up your mind and shift your perspective so that you can see another possibility. But for me, because the trauma was so much, I really only would open just a tiny, tiny bit. And because the trauma was so much, it's like it never got me the results that I was looking for. And I had to I studied how to facilitate a lot of these treatments because, when I started feeling a little bit better, I wanted to share it with other people. And again, I never wanted my trauma to define me, but what did I do when I started to feel a little bit better? I wanted to help other people heal from their trauma. And so there's this calling, this piece inside of me that I keep leaning into this subject. And in my coaching career, I even marketed to other things. I marketed to help grow your business, mindset, feel like make your job better and things like that. But the work was always the same. The work was always about unwinding and healing the trauma because, like I said, I didn't want my trauma to define me. But the truth is, it defined and informed everything that I did. And so if you don't like your job, if you keep having these repeats of toxic jobs, these repeats of toxic relationships, these repeats of never being able to keep the weight off, or always yo-yoing your good habits to your shit habits, like this pendulum swing, you're either all in or you're all out. Those are signs that your trauma, whatever it may be, maybe it's big like mine, maybe it's just a handful of paper cuts, that your trauma is informing your decisions. And when you have trauma, when I had trauma, it was always about, like I said earlier, it was trying to prevent it from happening again, trying to stay safe. And it wasn't until I made the effort and the steps to actually heal the trauma that I started to feel a little bit more free. And in that, I started to make some new decisions. It took a while. It was like little steps. Like, oh God, can I do something that I actually want? What hammer is going to come down? What horrible thing is going to happen if I actually step into what I really want to do? I was a photographer and an artist for many years, and my day job, that was really a night job, was bartending. And the bartending was the safe job. It was allowed, it was acceptable. My mom was a bartender, so it was allowed, it was acceptable. There was no way that she would be too upset with me because I followed in her footsteps. But also, I couldn't make more money than she did. I remember having a conversation with her when she had told, like she was asking me how much money I made. And there were some days where I made like $900, $1,000. And she got kind of huffy about it. She was like, I never made that much money. And like, da da da. And I could feel the envy and the jealousy and my pattern. I slipped into my pattern, which is to stay safe. And, I never made $1,000 again. I made like 800, 700, 750, even 850, but I never made $1,000 in one night again after that. Coincidence? Or me just trying to stay safe? You tell me. I know the answer. My nervous system knows the answer. But again, I never wanted my trauma to define me, but it did. And so here I am, not hiding anymore, not hiding what's happened to me, not hiding what I've been through. And sometimes it makes me feel emotional still, because as much healing as I've done and as much freedom as I feel, there's still some stuff in there. But I'll tell you, the level, like when you go from feeling so trapped, so stuck, so small, to feeling bigger, freer, and more expansive, and you can really understand the things that you want, the things that make you feel good, and you can step into the things that feel joyful and the things that fill your heart with love, like real love, not this like trade for resources, trade for my needs kind of love. When you can do that, when I do that, it's like the best thing ever, especially coming from such a contracted place. It's the best feeling. Like I can't even tell you like how good it feels. And I spent a lifetime trying to get there. I spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours working to get to this place, and years, most of my life. And I don't know about you, but I want to live the rest of my life to the fullest. I want to feel good. I want to have access to not only the wealth, the abundance, the prosperity, and the relationships that other people have, but I want those things to feel good, because I've had the relationships that feel like shit. I've had the money that feels like shit. And I've had success that feels like shit. But what I've been stepping into in my life these days is relationships that feel deep and connected, where I can actually feel the love from a genuine place. And I don't feel like I have to give them something in return. I feel like all I have to do is just be me, and that's enough, and that's okay. And the money I make comes from a different place. It feels different. It feels rich and free and fun, and like I can spend it on the things that light me up, not on the things that make me look a certain way so that I am perceived a certain way, so that I am safe. And the work that I do with my clients just gets bigger and bigger and more expansive, and they have more and more freedom and have access to all of these things too. The business grows. It's fun to watch it grow. It's fun to watch something that you're creating from your heart, from that thing that you never wanted to define you, to have the gift of it bloom in a way that it helps other people. So yeah, I never wanted my trauma to define me, but it has. And at this point in my life, I am so grateful for that. If you want to shorten that road, to have the freedom that your trauma never gave you, if you want to access joy and be able to do what you want and get what you want and have it feel like what you want on a consistent basis, reach out to me. There are lots of ways to get involved. I have a weekly clarity call that's open to people. No cost. Complimentary. Just something I'm doing for connection, for love, for helping people get some more clarity so that they can make choices that create more ease, that aren't all from that safety, that hanging on, moving from fear kind of place. I have a Firewalk event in January, and I'll have other events coming up mostly every month after that. I have coaching, group coaching, one-on-one coaching available. So lots of ways to get involved, all ranges of prices. So wherever you're at, there's a way to access a shortening of that path. So as we're coming into the new year, perhaps you want to make some new choices. Some choices that lead to the things that actually feel good, that lead to the ability to hold the things that would feel good. You know, one of the things throughout my life is I could access moments of the peace, moments of the joy, moments of the freedom, but I could never hold it. I could never maintain it. And I'll tell you, that is one of the worst feelings, to know what's possible for you and to not be able to grab it, or every time you grab it, it slips through your fingers. So if you don't want that, if that's happening to you and you don't want that to keep happening, reach out. And if I can't help you, I might know someone who can. And I'm happy to pass on, make a referral. This isn't about me getting something from me. This is me being able to open a door for you so that you can move toward what it is that you want, what it is that you are meant for in the world. All right. I wish you peace. I wish you joy. I wish you freedom, ease, and beyond. I'll see you soon. Bye.